if you have phones, then you have to put them in a bag. You have to put them in a pouch because Ghost are going to be touring the UK quite soon. The new album, Skeletá, is coming on April the 25th in what was a remarkably short lead-up for an album in the 21st century, modern day and age and all that kind of thing. Normally we get bands announcing, saying, oh, we're going to release a new album in 6 months. And then you have 2 or 3 singles in that lead-up period. Whereas, I think it was last month, Ghost just went, oh yeah, we're releasing an album in like 6 weeks. What? Which they are doing, but they're also going to be playing an arena tour in the UK prior to the release of said album. The SkeleTour World Tour 2025, which sounds like something from He-Man. I'm going to go on tour, and we're going to play all sorts of arenas on the SkeleTour. Until we meet again. Tell me that doesn't sound like Skeletor. Their world tour is going to be a phone-free experience. So guests will maintain possession of their phones at all times, but they will be magnetically sealed in Yondr pouches. So they kind of go in a pouch, it's magnetically sealed, then you keep your stuff on you, and then as you're leaving the venue, they unseal the pouches. Tobias Forge says, it's an experiment, and to be perfectly honest, my 16-year-old daughter was very, 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 very skeptical of this idea, as you would imagine a 16-year-old would be. I just know one thing, and that is that over the years, it's gone absolutely insane. If you have 10,000 people at a concert and 8,000 of them are holding a phone, there's something deeply disconnected. And I would agree with this. Moose, you remember gigs in the before times, don't you?
Well, yes, I do. In fact, I remember more of the before times than I do the current times, to be fair.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Mm-hmm. And you used to go to a gig and the sole focus of attention was the band that was on stage. That everybody had paid to be there. And everybody wanted to be a part of this and to experience this show that was happening. That was the reason we were there. But since the development of everybody has a camera in their pocket, everybody wants to have video of their own to put on social media for clout or for whatever it is, at some stage, almost everyone at that gig is disconnected from what is actually happening on stage. And I can see why, as an artist, you feel like you're competing for attention at your own gig because so many of the audience is disconnected, looking at their little screen, whether they're looking at the screen to try and film what's happening on the stage or they're posting it on... I've seen it. I've done it. You know, we've all done this at some stage or another. And I can see why an artist would want to do this, but it's a very different vibe. Like if they were doing this, and Tobias Forge mentions this himself, he says the whole thing in the business is basically, yeah, we want people to film because we want people to see the show. That will sell more tickets. I understand there's a promotional tool with social media, and so he understands that that's part of it. So they're not coming at it from a place of, we don't want anybody copyright reasons. We don't want anybody to post footage of our shows. That's not the place that they're coming from. They're coming from an involvement perspective. Like, he wants the audiences to be involved with the gigs. He wants the audiences to be present in that moment. And I think that's a fabulous thing. I experienced this when I went to go see Tool a couple of years ago, kind of. You know, Tool at Manchester Arena. They didn't go so far as to put phones in pouches, but they requested of the audience, please don't get your phones out. We'll do that at the end. And they did like 2 or 3 songs at the end where Maynard James Keenan said, all right, you can get your phones out. And instantly the crowd disconnected. You could see that instantly because I was sat somewhere near the back up on one of the sides of the arena. And all I could see then was phone screens in the audience as people took their phones out and held them up to see Tool. And they combated that by, they said, get your phones out. And it was some of their biggest songs. It was like Stinkfist, Schism, The Pot. And so everybody would get into those ones because they're like the biggies, you know? But before that, the gig was fabulous. And if there is a gig that you want to get involved in and really pay attention to and be present for, it's Tool. with the incredible visuals and the sound that were going on. It was brilliant. I enjoyed it far more than I thought I would. And that was simply by not having phones out. I think that this thing that Ghost are on about, I think it's a fabulous idea.
I get your point. I do. And you're right. If everybody has their phone up, then clearly they're focusing their attention elsewhere than on the music. But you harken back to those before times, those Saudis, they were there for a reason. They wanted to be there. I think if you gave those people the option to use that multimedia device back in the 70s, they would have. Without question. So they weren't superior. They just didn't have the technology. Now the technology is here. It's how is it used and how is it used best. Having a blanket, no phones kind of thing. I get the idea, but it's swimming upstream. It is. It's like, how could we best do this? I think recommended. Well, got to put it in a bag. Number one, do magnets and phones go together okay? Are they all right?
I don't know. That's a really good point.
I'm not really quite sure. I'm sure they'll be fine. Let's chuck it in there. It'll be fine.
Let's just put this really powerful magnet next to your mobile phone. See how well that works.
But if you have an individual who's grown up with nothing but the smartphone, that's their mechanism of communication. That is their thing. And it's maybe it is much different for me because I remember the olden days when we didn't have smartphones and things were so much better and we kept the front door unlocked. It's a different time and different technology. I would have maybe at some point in time when people were able to take cameras to, I don't know, an Elvis Presley gig. I don't know, no cameras. No, was there ever a time when they didn't want a flash camera, whatever? Yeah. So I mean. It's progress. It is. So I completely understand that. But it's kind of like, I don't know. I will force you to give you my, for you to give me your attention. I don't know. That seems a bit ditch to me.
You think?
A bit. I understand why, and I guess from an artist's perspective, maybe when you're playing.
There's two ways of looking at this. Given the option, a large majority of people will dick about with their phones, will do that, because we are fundamentally and sadly addicted to using these things all the damn time. So, for the purposes of a show, we need saving from ourselves. And if we are not given the option to use our phones, then we will revert to being present in that moment.
Agreed.
So, yes, we need to be saved from ourselves. Because at that Tool gig, I had a fabulous time. I enjoyed there being no phones around. Everybody was kind of locked in on the performance. And it was a more satisfying experience for that.
But however, they asked you, didn't they? Tool asked you.
Yes, Tool asked.
Please. Don't use your phone. We want you, and made a point of it, and people abided largely. I'm sure some
largely, yes,
largely, and so it really enhanced the experience. I'm just not digging you got to put it in a bag and we're gonna magnetize it and dip it.
But then there's the paternalistic kind of, oh yeah, well we're going to stop you, so then we're going to physically prevent you from doing this, which. I can see why that would get some people's backup. We've had loads of folks getting in touch in the comments already. Kingsy's saying, unpopular opinion, he prefers it without phones. Whereas Mandrill says, nope, I need to be able to be contacted. I don't film or take much in the way of photos at gigs anyway. But he also goes on to say that Mrs. Mandrill is a carer for her dad who has dementia. She needs to be able to be contacted. And I'm fairly sure the comeback from, the company said, like, if you can't be out of contact for the space of a couple hours at a gig, then that gig isn't for you.
Well, or you take I don't even know what the ins and outs are. If you need to be contacted, okay, you have special dispensation to keep your phone on. Please don't use it.
I honestly, I've never been to a gig that uses these things, so I don't know. I can't imagine that they would set that up on the night where you'd be able to go get special dispensation, because then everybody would just do it, because, as I mentioned previously, we're fundamentally addicted to our phones. Papa Temeritus Tamiri says that Jack White's been doing this at gigs for years. Prince used to demand this as well. And so when Tamuri was helping to set up the Prince exhibit, that was that around the O2? They made people do the same. So it was like being at a Prince show, because, you had to put your phone away and all that kind of thing. says, if you're needed, you can pop out and the team can open your pouch from the gig. Kingsley said, I used to have to do it with my phone at a test centre. Could still use the phone, just couldn't take pictures and all that kind of stuff. Mandrill also goes on to say, we were at Motionless in White, and the people in front of us, in the row in front of us in Glasgow the other week, filming the entire show. And admittedly, that can be quite, if you're behind someone who's doing that.
Behind you.
And all you can see is their phone screen right in the way of the stage. You know, yes, totally get that. I love this one. Mike says, when Prince last toured the UK back in 2016, he tried this by getting big burly men to shine flashlights at any offenders who had their phones out. Well, yes. There's two sides to this, and I see both. I see why people would be, and to be honest, mine too, being forced to do this kind of thing. When imagine how well we get on at music festivals. I don't like being told what to do or where to go. This is all that you get at music. You will walk this way. You won't go here. You will do this. But I hate being told what to do because, just like you, Moose, my immediate response is, I'll go yourself. Mm-hmm. But I get that in this respect, we need to be saved from ourselves to ultimately have a better time. We will enjoy the experience more.
Did the Tool gig, did people abide? Did they go, okay, I respect that. You will be able to use your phones a couple of songs later if you want to get, we'll right at the end, we'll be able to use their phones, but please don't. And so you were asked, and people largely didn't, correct?
Yeah, largely, yeah.
So why wouldn't Ghost just do that? Why wouldn't say, look, this is important. This is important to us. Please don't use your phones. Don't record. You can do so at the end, whatever, we'll have an opportunity for you to take photos at the end. Like a wedding or whatever it is. That's fair enough. I just that put it in a bag just sounds airport security-esque. It does gets my back up. I don't know. And I think that's just me personally. It's like, man, if you ask me not to use it, I won't use it. If you ask me, I won't. But you don't trust me enough to put, and you know what? We know people. We are people. People are
trusting people. Yes,
I know. Trusting people is
wrong.
Wrong.
As you say, you're trusting people to behave in a live event situation where there will be alcohol and there will be thousands of people, and the vast majority of people will behave. However, those that don't stand the risk of ruining an experience for not just themselves, but for many other people. So they get round that and sidestep that issue completely by forcing people to behave. And that is... I understand that. I mean, we've run live events, Moose, and with any element, with any live event, you have to control the environment, because otherwise it can just people can and will, especially after a few beers, just run amok. And so you have to manage the environment.
I understand. I do. I understand where you're coming from.
I get it.
I just don't like it.
Well, don't go then.
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, this is all a moot point. Carry on.
Thank you very much.
That was a podcast. Thanks very much, guys. Yay!
Good night, everybody.
Primordial Radio.